Okay, good morning, everyone. I'll start straight away as the timing or the agenda is quite full today. So thank you everyone for signing up to this training on using social media. My name is Coralie Verhagen and I am the communication officer of Biodiversa Plus, and I'll be the one giving you this training. Thank you as well to Céline Billière, my colleague from the operational team, who will be helping out for any technical support needed during this presentation. Also, please note that this meeting is being recorded. Any other things to talk about is to please make sure that you're to be muted, and camera, it's up to you whether you want it on or off, but please make sure that you're muted. Okay, let's get started. So today the agenda is quite full, so I'll be giving very shortly an introduction in the context of this training, and then we'll go through a few social media platforms. Then I'll talk a bit more about leveraging social media for your research promotion. So basically how to use social media. I'll also give some advice on managing your time and information overload on the different social media platforms. And then you'll be split into subgroups to do a little exercise. And then after that, we'll have some time for your questions before wrapping up the session. If you have any questions, so there will be questions at the end. Otherwise, you can always put them in the chat. To be honest, when I'm presenting, I won't be looking at the chat that much, but should there be anything burning, you can always raise your hand and interrupt me like this. Otherwise, we'll come to the questions at the end of the session. Good. So that's for the agenda. So, okay, let's get started. So as for the introduction in the context of this training, so this training is part of our capacity building cycle. The next workshop will be on the 10th of October, and it will be a policy capacity building. In case you have not yet registered for that, you can do so by scanning the QR code on the slide. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, so this is what the session will tackle. We'll be tackling Twitter and LinkedIn. Actually, we'll talk also a bit about Mastodon. We will talk what to post about, when to post, and we'll also work on a practical exercise. The session will not talk or not tackle how to set up new accounts. That is, we just don't have time to do that today. We also won't talk about how to define your audiences, and we also won't have time to tackle other social media such as ResearchGate, Facebook, or TikTok. So unfortunately, yeah, we'll just focus on the first part of this training. So first and foremost, just a bit of context. So why do people want to communicate on social media to share their research? A very common one is to grow and consolidate your project's audiences and research, to show the quality of your work, to position your project as interesting and relevant for biodiversity research. But it can also be used to foster project cohesion and to make people from your team and their work known. So this is a bit more from the perspective of posting as the project itself, but these are also applicable to your own personal level. So understanding the social media platforms. So the first platform we're going to talk about is Twitter, which is now called X. I'll call it Twitter for this presentation because that's what I'm used to and I just find it easier. So what is Twitter? Twitter is a microblogging platform, which is takes place in the forms of tweets. So tweets are short texts of maximum 280 characters. Although this is something for Twitter Blue subscribers, which is the new pay service of Twitter, they have much long. They can write tweets that are much longer than that, but I don't think any of you has a Twitter Blue account, so I don't think that's very relevant. And also please note that in the 280 character limit, links are considered to be 23 characters, however long they are. So it's not something that you have to worry about when you write a tweet, that you don't have to worry about making sure that the link is not too long. Twitter will shorten the link for you. So the main features of Twitter are so posts, so like writing tweets, but then you can also share, like, and reply to tweets, and you can also send direct messages to other accounts. The format is mainly text, but then you can also share videos, photos, polls, links. There is a very frequent use of hashtags and emojis on Twitter. Twitter is a platform that's both used to be formal and informal. So there are some features that are specifically for professionals, and some people really use it as a professional tool, but some people also use it just for casual conversations, social interactions, and sharing humor and stuff like that. The way people use Twitter, many people use Twitter as a main source of news and how to get news updates. It's also used to communicate with friends, but also to follow leaders, politicians, celebrities. I mean, celebrities as well, I guess. It can be to follow experts, basically staying up to date in your field. And something important as well is that there is presence of algorithmic boosting by the platform. So that means that content that has a lot of that is interacted with a lot is promoted, and so basically the more a tweet is popular, the more it will be shown to a larger range of people. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of Twitter? So the strength is that you can get real-time updates and also provide real-time updates. So it's very valuable to staying up to date with the latest developments in your fields, and you can find news and conferences updates on the platform and stuff like that. It's also a good platform for networking and for discussing and engaging with other academics through replies, retweets, and direct messages. Twitter often hosts discussions and debates on various topics, and you can participate in these conversations to share insights and also gain feedback on your research. And then it's also it has also strength of disseminating information. So it's a very quick and effective way to share your research findings and your publications. And also many conferences have official Twitter hashtags and Twitter accounts that you can tag to increase the visibility of your content. So those are the strengths of Twitter. The weaknesses of the platform is it's provides very limited content depth as with 280 characters, you're really not able to provide a lot of context about what you're posting. So it has significant limitations for in-depth discussions and sharing complex research findings. So it can encourage superficial and oversimplified discussions at times, something to keep in mind. There's also the question of credibility and misinformation. So that's also linked to the previous point. A lot of content on Twitter is unreliable. I think we've all heard about fake news and stuff like that. So as misinformation spreads quickly, some users can have difficulties to discern the accuracy of information that's shared on the platform. And sometimes correct information that is shared without context can also be used to feed false claims. So that is also something to keep in mind. But again, it's something, it's trade-offs again between these strengths and weaknesses. And then another main weakness of Twitter is the lifespan of tweets. Like I said, it's very good for real-time updates, and it's a platform that has a very, very high turnover of content. So due to the heavy flow of tweets, they can very quickly disappear from users' timelines, and they may not have lasting impact, which is why it's important to try to maximize engagement to keep a tweet alive, quote unquote, as long as possible. So that was for Twitter. Now, Mastodon is a somewhat newer platform. I think it was launched in 2016 or 2017, I forget, but it's gained a lot of traction in 2022 when Elon Musk purchased Twitter. And so there's been a lot of people creating accounts on Mastodon since. So what is Mastodon? It is also a microblogging platform. And instead of having tweets, you have toots, although most people just use the word posts. The character limit is a bit longer than on Twitter. You have 500 characters maximum per post. And again, just like on Twitter, the links, it doesn't matter how long the link is, it will be counted as 23 characters. Something as well that I don't think it's in the slides, but I needed to mention is that whereas Twitter now has a paying service and Twitter Blue, where you can get more advantages and more functionalities, Mastodon is fully free. It is a decentralized and open source platform. So that means that users can create servers that are organized around specific topics, companies, or interests. And the different servers can interact with each other. So that also means that when you're creating your account on Mastodon, you choose which server you want to create your account on. And so each server will have its own flavor, let's say. The main features, just like Twitter, is that you can post, and then you can favorite, which is the equivalent of liking, boost, which is the equivalent or the counterpart to retweeting. You can also reply and send direct messages. The format that are present on the platform is also mainly texts. There's videos, photos, polls, and links, just like Twitter. And there's also hashtags and emojis that are used on the platform. Again, it's both formal and informal. Some servers are really more geared towards professional discussion and more formal discussions, and some servers are more geared towards humor and hobbies and stuff like that. The use is very similar to the use of Twitter. A big difference is that there is no algorithmic boosting. So that means that posts are listed in reverse chronological orders, which means that the most recent posts are on top of the timeline. So it doesn't, if people like or something, it's not that your post will get boosted and be shown to more people. It's really just the order in which it is published. So that's the main difference with Twitter. And also the privacy can be very different depending on the server you choose. The privacy policy can be highly different from the one of Twitter. And so also because it's decentralized and it's different servers, this can vary vastly on the platform. So this is a bit what Mastodon looks like in case you've never used it. So again, quite similar features. So you have a sidebar here with different notifications, live feeds, etc., etc. Here you post, and this is what our own timeline looks like at the moment. So the strength of Mastodon is, first and foremost, the character limit is almost double of that of Twitter. So you can provide a bit more insights and context in your posts, even if it's still quite limited. It tends to be a very safe and friendly platform because each server has its dedicated moderation policy and dedicated moderation policy. There's often a very strict no trolling policy, which results in often less hate speech, less harassment, and less misinformation. But again, that depends on which server you choose. Another strength is that posts are editable. So once you publish a post, if you notice that you forgot to tag someone or there's a typo or something like that, you can go back and edit it, which is not the case on Twitter. On Twitter, once you post a tweet, that's the tweet. And so if there's a mistake, you either have to leave it as is or you have to delete it. But in case you already had people commenting or interacting with the tweet, then if you delete it, of course, you lose all of that. The weaknesses, and quite a big weakness, is the fact that Mastodon has a much smaller user base. Even if there's been a huge boost of people creating new accounts on Mastodon, average or the estimated daily or the estimated active users is between 1.6 and 2.5 million users, whereas on Twitter there are over 230 daily active users on Twitter. So it's quite a big difference. And there's also less discoverability than on Twitter. So because it's made of different servers, it can be challenging to find and connect with users from other servers. So that can be that's one thing that makes it difficult to share content or to find content outside of your own interests. And also because it doesn't use algorithmic boosting, there's less use, there's less discoverability as well. It's just whatever you happens to be posted when you're online that you can see. And then LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also a quite known social media platform. So the way it was created, it was a professional networking platform, which uses posts as well. And these posts can have up to 3,000 characters. I'm not sure how the links there are counted, but I mean, with 3,000 characters, it's seldom a limit. You're seldom limited in your posts. The main features are, again, posting. You can repost, and you can also send posts to people. You can like and comment and have direct messages. There's group features on LinkedIn, even though that is something that has been less and less promoted by LinkedIn over the years. At some point, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but at some point you had to manually go activate notifications of your group to get updates. So it's not a feature that's boosted by LinkedIn, and so that's why I put it in gray. It's a feature, but it's not a feature that's that prominent. The format, again, largely the same as the other two. There's also the possibility to share PDFs, and so you can really have people have the PDFs, and you can click to see the different pages. There's a use of hashtags, and you can also write articles, which are a bit different from posts, but I won't delve into that too deeply today. The platform is largely or completely formal, or that's at least the way it's supposed to be. It was really designed for business networking, and so that's also something that translates in the tone that is used on LinkedIn. The way people use it is often to showcase expertise, connect with colleagues, and find opportunities of collaboration and employment and stuff like that. And here as well, there is presence of algorithmic boosting. So it means that people with a larger following and content that's been interacted with a lot tends to be favored on the platform. Again, like the other two, LinkedIn has strengths and weaknesses. Its main strength is that the text is much longer, so you can provide a bit more context and insights. Because it's a professional networking platform, you are much likely or very likely to reach relevant audiences, or at least reach people who are already interested in your field of research. And it is also, the posts are also editable, just like on Mastodon. We also have an issue of less discoverability because of the algorithmic boosting and the fact that you're very much within a little bubble of your own connections. It can be difficult to discover content outside of your area of interest. And there is also limited user engagement on the platform compared to Twitter, especially. The engagement tends to be lower. People tend to interact with posts a bit less. And so that can be sometimes a bit frustrating to put efforts into it and to maybe see a bit less reactions. Okay, so that was a bit the different, a very brief introduction of the different social media platforms and how they work and how they're they're working. Here, we are going to talk a bit about how to actually create posts. So yes, sorry. So how to actually create the post. I'll give the example. I'll use Twitter as an example, and then I'll provide differences, or I'll explain what differences are for Twitter and for Mastodon and LinkedIn. So I'll explain how to create your post from Twitter, and then any differences I'll point out at the end. So for every post you make, I have a top 3 lists of what are quote unquote mandatory ingredients, things that you should always have in your posts, regardless of what you're trying to post about. Please include this. So first of all, call to action. Why are you posting? Do you want people to read your article? Do you want people to go follow your project? Do you want people to sign up for your workshop? What is it? And you need to tell people, because if you just post, oh, I have this article, it seems like it's implied, please read my article. But if you don't write it down with a little arrow pointing towards the link, many people will just not click on it. So tell people what you want from them. Be very clear. It seems very silly, but it's something necessary. The second one is use visual elements. You may have noticed yourself when you're scrolling on your phone, you're much more likely to pass or to like scroll past a post that is just text with nothing else. So use hashtags, because oftentimes they're like in a little blue color, so they stand out a bit. Use emojis and use photos. So try to make it visual, so to grab people's attention. And then lastly, tag people. Especially if you have a limited following, you don't have that many connections. Tagging people will give them a notification, and so they are more likely, so with their notification, they will see your post, and then they're more likely to like it, to even share it if it's relevant to them. So these 3 things, call to action, a visual element, and tagging people, is really key to any post you make. So here are a few examples. So first of all, for both of these, I have several visual elements. So I have a photo here. I have a few hashtags. I have a few emojis. Here I have a list. So the effectiveness of marine protected area depends on 3 main factors. Instead of just writing them down here in a list, I make them on quote unquote bullet points using an emoji for each bullet. That will help the eyes of the reader to understand what this is about much faster. So I have visual elements. I have a call to action, discover why, and then I have the link. Register here, and then I have the link. And then here as well, I have tagged people to increase the visibility of my posts. Please note that I have tagged people in the photos. Here I also tagged Water JPI, because something that we organized together. And so it was relevant to have them really as part of the posts. But on Twitter especially, and I guess this is also true for Mastodon, if tagging people in the text, it counts towards the character limits. And so the more people you tag in the text, the less space you have to actually write what you want to write about. Whereas here, you can tag up to 10 accounts on a photo. So here you see 1 + 9 as well, 1 + 9. I try to always tag 10 accounts in everything I post. Sometimes I don't, but it's like I try to do it as much as I can, because it's at least 10 accounts who are going to see my post and who are very likely to be relevant. Here, for example, it's about a policy brief. I've tagged the project, one of the projects this policy brief was about. They're very likely to be interested in this post and to like it and share it. So those 3 things were my golden rules, but there's more things that you should do. So first of all, you should keep it short and simple. Use very simple words. Avoid jargon at all costs. If you want to talk about the anthropogenic factors of blah, 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 don't use anthropogenic, use human. People are scrolling on their phones on their way to work. When they have a little break, they don't want to have to think too much. It sounds a bit silly, but that's the case. If people are here to relax, especially on Twitter, people are here to relax. So make sure to take them by the hands and be like, this is very simple. This is what I'm going to be doing. And to really attract them with very simple words. Another important thing is, like I said, social media is very visual. So try to always have a photo at the bottom of your tweet. First of all, it will allow you to tag people in the photo. If you don't have a photo of your own research available or whatever, you can use royalty-free images. And so here are a few royalty-free images sites. You have Unsplash, which is one I use a lot. I think all the photos I use until now in these presentations were all from Unsplash. There's also Pexels. Wikicommons is useful if you're looking for very specific image. Like if you have one tool that you use for your research that Unsplash is not likely to have. I don't know if it's like a monitoring tool or something. Wikicommons might have it. To be honest, the quality in the photos are often not as beautiful, but you might find something there. And then there's also Pixabay. So you can use royalty-free images. You can also use GIFs, for example. GIFs is something that is seen as a bit more fun and a bit less formal. But for example, if you just finished your PhD, or if you just got some funding or something, you can always like have a little GIF of like someone celebrating or something like that. Again, it's visual, it's moving, so it will attract the eyes. And once people's eyes are on it, they will read the text above it. You can only tag in photos. You cannot tag in GIFs or in video. So that's something to keep in mind. You can also upload videos directly to Twitter, or you can put a link to a YouTube video. If you upload to Twitter directly, keep in mind that Twitter will cut the video. I think it's at 2 minutes 20. I'm not sure exactly how long anymore. But so if you have a video that's 3 minutes, it will cut at that. So you can choose where it cuts. It will cut at let's say 2:20. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. If you want to have your video on Twitter, make sure that it's a video that was made for Twitter, or use a YouTube link or Vimeo link or whatever, because you can also play it from Twitter. And like I showed in my example, you can use line breaks to like space out the tweet a bit to like make it more visual. You can use emojis to make lists, etc. Make it dynamic. Again, like I said, people are on social media to relax. That's a main goal of many people. So make it dynamic. You can give fun facts, or you can ask questions, be like, did you know that blah, 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 or a fun fact could be 1 in 3 seahorses has blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but just something to have people be like, huh? That they're like more likely to have a look at your tweet. You can use hashtags. You can use a special day. What I mean with special days, for example, the World Biodiversity Day or International Day of Forests or whatever, and use that as a hook to get people to read your research. So for example, if it's World Biodiversity Day, even if I don't necessarily have something out at that moment, on World Biodiversity Day, I can share again a paper that came out like maybe 2 months ago and be like, oh, to celebrate this, to celebrate World Biodiversity Day, you can read on this article that I wrote, which was related to this topic on biodiversity. And then you can use the hashtag World Biodiversity Day, because that's a hashtag that's often trending on that day. Same for events. Many events will have their own hashtag. And so again, it's a hashtag that is likely to gain more views, because some people will look by hashtag per hashtag. And so they will find your tweet like that. Do limit yourself to 1 to 2 tweets per, 1 to 2 hashtags per tweets. It can be a bit overwhelming and difficult to read if there's like too much jumping out of the screen. What I suggest doing is to just go on Google and to look for what are the most popular hashtags in your field, and you could include them in your tweet, I mean, if they're relevant to you, of course. But try to be a bit specific. If you're talking about like I don't know, microplastics in water, I wouldn't use hashtag water, but maybe hashtag water pollution. It's a bit more specific. The people who are going to click on that hashtag are likely people who are going to be more interested. You can pin important tweets at the top of your profile. So that's something whenever people come to your profile, this is the first tweet that will appear. So if there's like one paper you want to, one paper that you published, that you tweeted about, you want people to see that first, you can pin it on the top of your profile and it will stay until you unpin it or until you pin something else and then that will be replaced. Engage. So tag co-authors, collaborators or institutions that are involved in your research. Again, that will increase the visibility of your tweet. And then you can also respond to mentions and comments because that's something to keep your profile and your tweets more visible. Also, sorry, also, even if it's not your own content, like if you see something that's relevant to your field or someone had publish a very good paper or someone has just like a very clever idea, you can also retweet that. Think about it's not only just your own content, but anything that will make your account more active and more grounded is positive. And so if you retweet relevant content, maybe like say why you think it's a great article to read or why you think this is such a good quote. Try to be consistent. So again, the more your account is quote unquote alive between times that you post to promote your own paper, the more it is likely to be picked up. So again, here is a little example. So here it was for the plant health. Here for Plant Health Day. So I've used the hashtag plant health here again. I've used some visual elements. I didn't have a specific biodiversa photo for this. I just went on Unsplash, picked a random photo of plants to put it just to have a visual element. I made a little list here. So really just things to make my post visually attractive. Here again, I've tagged a few, I've tagged people in the photo and then I had some space left. So I decided to also tag people here. These people did not have their own Twitter account, but the institutions they worked with or they worked for had. So it's something then because I then tagged their institution to increase visibility again. I put a little call to action with the link to where they should go. Okay, so those were the do's. The don'ts, it's not that difficult, but don't try to summarize your research. You have a very limited amount of characters. It's impossible to give a nuanced view of everything you've been working on. So take one idea, one interesting fact, one surprising twist, and add a call to action. Go read my article, and people will be able to find more there. Or if you say, I really want to post more about this because I've worked on it so long, etc., which I completely understand, then break your research down in smaller snippets or in key takeaways. And then you can create a little series of tweets that can provide a narrative about your research, introducing why you did your research, what you found, and how that can impact others, for example. How to do that? Do not retweet yourself. If you click here and you click on retweet, you will have your original tweet and then your new tweet on top. But then if you retweet that, this tweet disappears. And so you cannot the more you retweet, the more you actually lose the other tweets. So if you want to make a narrative and have tweets that are linked between them, you can use the thread function. And the thread is actually by commenting your own tweet. It sounds strange to comment your own tweet, but that's how you create threads. Sorry. Don't post too much. If you post 10 times a day, I mean, your posts, they will just stack on top of each other, and each post will have very little visibility. So give yourself time. Just you can post a few times per week, or if you're someone who's quite active on social media, you can post once or twice per day, but avoid posting 10 times. It's a lot of effort. You're going to lose a lot of time, and it's not going to be very impactful. And don't forget your bio, because if you have very good tweet, or a very good article, and you share it, and then people are like, oh, this looks quite good, and they click on your profile, and you have no profile picture, there's no information of who you are, where you work, what your topics are, you're not going to appear very credible, and you're not going to appear very approachable. And then something that's my own pet peeve, and it's fine if you do it, I just think it looks a bit silly to do it. Don't like your own post, or don't tag yourself. It makes it whenever I see that, I always feel like it's someone who doesn't really know how to use social media. So that's more of an unspoken rule, but it's not terrible if you do, but avoid posting liking your own posts or tagging yourself. So that was it for Twitter. For Mastodon, good news, it's actually very largely the same as Twitter. Two main differences are that people tend to use less hashtags on Twitter, and that less hashtags on Mastodon, and that Mastodon does not have a built-in GIF feature. So that's the main difference, but the way you craft a tweet is mainly the same as the way you craft a Mastodon post. For LinkedIn, the main differences are that because you can make it longer, you can provide more context, insights, and valuable information. So please make use of that, especially if it's introducing your research. You're the expert on what you're working on, so it's good to show that a bit. There tends to be fewer emojis, or sometimes no emojis at all. The tone is much more formal. And emojis are sometimes seen as informal, which or are quite informal. Instead of tagging people in the photo, you can, but you can also tag them in the message, because again, you have 3,000 characters. It's very unlikely that you're going to run out of spot or space in your post, because also realize that even if you can write much longer posts, people are still very busy and have so much information, receive so much information, they're unlikely to read a tweet that's 300 words. So that's something or a post that's 300 words. Something to keep into mind is that on LinkedIn, only the 2 to 3 first lines will show in people's news feed. So it's important to have the important information or the hook at the start, so that people can click and expand the post. I have a photo on the next slide, and then you can also go crazy with hashtags. You can put them at the end of the post. Like I said, because the post is collapsed, it's not something that's going to be like very disturbing visually. You can just add a bunch. To be honest, I'm not sure how effective that is to increase visibility, but when in doubt, why not, right? So here is what it looks like. So here is a post we wrote for LinkedIn. So as you see, you can only see the first 2 lines, and then you have to click on see more to see the full length of the tweet. And so here it's really like, okay, we teased a bit, counting down, and so people are like, oh, what is this about? And then you can like find a bit more information here. Okay, so that's how to write a post. Now, when should you be writing a post? So when should you be writing a post? First of all, whenever you have research updates. So whether you have a new project starting, you have been selected for funding, but also if you are about to start fieldwork, or if you just came back from fieldwork, if you are doing lab work. So any progress, any finding, any publication, any update you have is interesting to share. But that's not the only moments you can post. You can also post if you have a thought-provoking question that's related to your research area and that you think could be a good conversation starter to have people engage with it and start a discussion online. You can also post about events and the hashtag days, like I mentioned, the World Something Day, etc., etc. Or whenever there's any news linked to your field. For example, the Global Biodiversity Framework, for example, that came out. You can write your 2 cents about that. So you can post about upcoming activities and workshops you have attended. You can also thank organizers from workshops, etc., and like include why you liked it and your takeaways and stuff like that. And then you can use the different days, like I said. So again, here's a little example. So this was for the World Biodiversity Day. We use the hashtag World Biodiversity Day because it's one that has a lot of traction. The Build Back Biodiversity was also a popular hashtag from, was it, I think it's from the Commission, I'm not sure anymore. But again, visual, people tagged, etc., etc. This is an example from LinkedIn, where we wrote about the COP15 in Montreal and about the 30 by 30. There was what's the word? There was I forget. I'll say launched, even if it's not the right word. But so this is like reasons, external hooks as to when to post and when you can post. Another thing you can do is you can live tweet conferences, and this is mainly for Twitter. I think some people also do it on Mastodon, but it's uncommon to do that on LinkedIn. And you don't need to be presenting to live tweet an event. You can, because it allows you to show that you're engaged in your field's events. It's a chance to connect with speakers, and you can use the event's hashtag and tag the organizers to increase the visibility of your event. So again, examples, I'm going a bit quickly over this. So here is something we posted. I'm not going to be going into too much detail. Here's something else we posted. And here, for example, something we did, and that's quite interesting to do if you're if you're attending an event, is to take a quote of what the person said. Like, this is just like a very, we can do it in a bubble. It's just like one catchphrase that we use to, to show that we're engaged, and then that, so this person is more likely to interact with our post, etc., etc. Good. So that's when to post, as in for the external hooks, as it very concretely when you can post. So there's best times of day, there's best days, and then the worst days. This is, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but so basically the rule of thumb is during the weekdays and in the mornings. That's when you have most chances of having the highest engagement, as you can see. I guess it also depends what field we're working in and where you are in the world, etc., etc. But rule of thumb, in the mornings of weekdays is usually the best. For Twitter, same for LinkedIn, is again weekdays. Avoid weekends, because especially in professional settings, people are not checking their LinkedIn accounts during the weekends. I don't have data for Mastodon, but I assume it's quite similar. Okay, I'm almost done. So managing time and information overload. So that is something that can be quite challenging as well with social media, is especially Twitter. It's something that's, you're constantly bombarded with information. It can be quite difficult to not get lost and sucked in and waste a lot of time. So here are a few advices that we have, or a few tips that we have for managing your time. So first of all is set specific goals. What are you trying to achieve? Because oftentimes it can be very difficult, or it can be quite common to feel like whatever you're doing on social media, it's not really working. But what are you trying to do actually? Are you trying to increase the visibility of your research? Are you trying to grow your network? Are you trying to stay up to date with what's happening in your field? Like, being aware what you're trying to do can help you relax and say like, okay, well, maybe I'm not staying up to date with what I'm doing on my field, but actually my network has grown quite a bit, or stuff like that. So set goals and expectations for yourself, so that you don't get trapped into overthinking and trying too hard, etc., etc. You can batch create posts. That's something that's very interesting, especially like if you're about to post on LinkedIn, well, you might as well post on Twitter as well. And so you can write multiple posts. And also, for example, if you have, let's say you have a research paper that's going to be published, but it's still embargoed, for example. What you can do is you can write a few posts and schedule them ahead of time and say, like, for example, like, if you know the release date, you can, like, 1 month being like, oh, next month I have this interesting research coming out, stay tuned. And then like a week ahead, like, oh, very excited, only 7 days left. And on the day of the release, also have a post. So you can like write multiple posts, which are going to be quite similar in content. and you can have them like be published automatically. So here is so here is how you can do it. So on LinkedIn, you have this little schedule later button, and so you just click it and then you choose when you want to do it. Same for Twitter. Mastodon does not currently have this feature. You cannot write posts ahead of time, unfortunately. Something else to note is that if you have tagged people in photos, like I did here, if you do that, you see that like you're no longer able to schedule it. So that's a trade-off to see like, okay, do I want, for example, if I'm away on holiday, that's something that I do a lot for Biodiversa Plus. When I'm away on holiday, I like that the social media, I like for the social media account to stay active. And so I will schedule posts when I'm away. And then I just don't tag anyone in the photos because I can't do both. Something I will do as well is that I will just like schedule all the posts, and then I put a little reminder on my phone to be like, oh, don't forget you have this post coming up today, and I just go back and I only like tag a few accounts, and so like it saves me time because the post was done. I don't have to think about it. Image is already there. I just need to like tag a few accounts. So that's also something that I can do. An advice that I have for you is that if you're preparing tweets for across platforms, write your LinkedIn post first. Why? It's because you have more text, so you have more space, and so you have first. You have to like come up with your idea first. Or okay, what is it I want to say? You can work on that. You write your post, and then you can use that as a basis to write your shorter tweet. And so you just have to like cut from there instead of come up with something short and then like try to come up with more content as you go instead. Like, so you have more content and you can prune that down. It's easier than to like come up with content and then come up again with more content. Something that's going to, takes a bit of time to do, but is going to save you a lot of time in the long run, is you can create an Excel sheet or a Google sheet or whatever with relevant accounts to tag. So that's something that I do as well for Biodiversa, is I have a list of people's names or some institutions. I have the Twitter handle, the Mastodon handle if they have an account, and their LinkedIn account. And then I have information on what the topic is, if it's, I don't know, like nature-based solutions, or if they're a funding organization or something like that. And so whenever I have a post ready, I don't have to think like, who could I tag in this? I can just be like, okay, well, this is about nature-based solutions. These 4 accounts for sure are going to be interesting or interested in this content. And so that's something that I don't have to think every time again who I'm going to post. So for your projects, for example, you can add, make sure you have all your colleagues in there, your funding organization. If it's a Biodiversa project, Biodiversa, and so that whenever whoever is tagged can see your post, and so that's going to save you a lot of time. You can make a schedule and set a timer. So you can allocate very specific time blocks. Like I mentioned, when to post, it's usually weekdays in the mornings. So you can say, like, for example, okay, on Tuesday morning, I set aside like 15 minutes to like go on Twitter and LinkedIn and to like look at the notifications, post my post, and just like comment a few things. I have 15 minutes, and then after that, I close it. Because if you keep it open, if you keep your notifications going on, it's something like it traps you in, and then before you know it, you've spent 20 minutes scrolling. So set a timer, make a schedule, make sure to not get sidetracked too much. And then prioritize engagement. So dedicate time to engage with comments, respond to messages, and participate in discussions. That's going to be way more effective for your posts and for your profile than just scrolling mindlessly. And then manage notifications. And that's especially the case for LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, the types of notifications you get to send you notifications for everything. So make sure to turn off all the notifications that you don't want to see, so that the notifications that you do get are actually relevant to you and that you don't waste time looking at the other ones. So that's for managing time. For managing the information, one very interesting feature that Twitter and Mastodon have, LinkedIn does unfortunately not have this, is that you can create lists. So you can create lists of accounts to follow, such as colleagues, institutions, etc., etc. And it helps you streamline content. And so I'll click the next slide. So on Twitter, you can access you can click here on lists, and then you'll have a menu that appears with a bunch of pre-existing lists made by other people. For example, this is a list that was made by Tom Woolnough or whoever. This person has created a list called Biodiversity Influencers, and this list follows 41 accounts. This is how many people are following the actual list. So there's 41 accounts of like relevant biodiversity accounts, which is UN Biodiversity. I think IPBES was in there and a bunch of others. And so instead, when you're going on Twitter, instead of looking at your home feed here, and so to really see your timeline, go click here and have a look here. So you also have a timeline, but in this timeline, you only see posts by these accounts. And so instead of seeing a bunch of different things that will sidetrack you, or I don't know if you have like updates, like news updates, because you also like to follow the news. If you're like, no, this is like, now I want to be online to like for my project and for my like quote unquote career, then you can go straight to like the list that's specifically relevant to that. Or if you have a list that's only like funding organizations, then you're like, okay, I'm going to look at it for 10 minutes, going to see if there's any like funding things that are relevant to me at the moment. So that's very interesting. You can use existing lists, or you can make your own with like your colleagues, etc., etc. And then you can choose whether you make that list public or private. On Mastodon, there's also a list feature, but there's no existing list, so you have to make your own lists. You can also search for hashtags and keywords, so you can follow certain hashtags and keywords that are relevant to your research and to your interests. And so again, that helps you streamline the content. And then something also like mute and unfollow regularly accounts that are providing irrelevant or distracting content. That will also help you to manage the flow of information. Perfect. Then I think that's it on my side. So I'll make the slides and the recording available. And if you have questions, so first of all, whenever you post, think about tagging Biodiversa so we can like it and share it. And because our following base is quite big, you can also like increase the views of your tweets and posts. And then if you have questions, or if you're organizing, I don't know, if you have an article coming out, or if you're organizing a workshop or something, do let us know on the communication@biodiversa.eu address so that we can help boost that for you. So that's something that we like do, and also we like to see what you're doing. So that's always good for us. Great. Well, thank you very much. I hope it was useful. And again, have a good rest of the day and have a good weekend.